First bite of the day. Fishing these little islands. He's not very big, but hey, it's the first bite of the day. I'm gonna take it. Hey everybody, it's Dalton. I want to talk to you today about plastic worms. Plastic worms, without a doubt, in bass fishing are the #1 way to catch bass. Plastic worms have caught more bass than any other bait, hands down. It was that way when I was a kid, it's that way now. There's a number of things about plastic worms I want to talk about, so I'm going to break this up in 2 parts. The second part is where I want to share with you 11 ways that I rig a plastic bait. But in this first part, I want to talk about water clarity and choosing your colors, okay? I base all of my colors on water clarity. I'm not trying to match the hatch. In other words, if there's little bait fish in here, if I'm throwing a swim bait, I want that bait fish or that swim bait to look like those bait fish. But if I'm throwing a worm, I don't really care about matching that. Worms are not affected by matching the exact color of things that bass feed on. The nice thing about worms, they're not controlled by season. Summer, winter, fall, it makes no difference. Spring, it's a year-round bait. The only time that I don't fish worms is going to be in really heavy wind. At that point, I'm going to start cranking spinner baits, crank baits, using topwaters, jerk baits, all that kind of stuff. When the wind kicks up, I am going to fish faster. But you look right now, it's calm. The whole lake is calm. There's hardly any wind. I found a shade tree so I could do this video. So I want to talk to you about color selection of plastic worms. And for me, it's very simple. What is the water clarity? If I'm in clear water, and I'll define clear water as anything where I can see 5 to 6 feet or more. Some lakes you can see 20 feet, 30 feet down because they're so crystal clear. I like 2 colors for clear water. One of them is going to be watermelon. Watermelon is just great for clear water. This is a watermelon red flake, great color. You can get watermelon purple, green flake. There's all kinds of colors you can get of that, but I would stay with watermelon when it's clear water. Also in clear water, I like purple a lot. Purple, brown, purple, whatever. I like purple. Purple is an excellent color in clear water. Now when you start getting into stained water, there's less visibility. Let's say you can only see maybe 2 to 4 feet. You drop a lure in the water, you can see it 2 to 4 feet. My favorite color for that is going to be green pumpkin. Green pumpkin, I think, is the best all-around color there is. You can throw it in clear water. You can throw it in that stained water where you're only seeing maybe 2 to 4 feet down. Green pumpkin, to me, is excellent. Just straight green pumpkin. You can get it with all kinds of flakes, red flake, blue flake, gold flake, whatever. There's a bunch of them. But just straight green pumpkin is my favorite in that type of stained water. Now, the lake I'm fishing right now is a pretty stained lake. I can only see maybe 1.5 to 2 feet when I drop a lure down. So always remember, the darker the water, the darker color worm you want to use. What's been working out here is just straight June bug. June bug is a great bait for when you can only see 1 to 2 feet in the water. The bass can see this really well, and I tell you, I've caught a bunch of bass out here on this June bug. Sorry, I forgot the name of it. I've caught a bunch of them on this June bug in that color of water. Now, muddy water. Sometimes in the wintertime, if it rains real heavy, the water's going to get all muddy. I know at Lake Nacimiento this last winter, it was chocolate milk. I do fish plastic worms in super muddy water, but I generally will go with 1 color, and that is black. Just jet black plastic worms. It shows up better in that muddy water. So whenever you're trying to figure out what color worm to use, in that clear water, watermelon is good, purple. In semi-stained water, green pumpkin. The water's a little more stained, June bug, and the water's really chocolate milk mud, just straight black. This will help you in your color selection, and I don't use a lot of colors. Now, the other thing is coloring the worm. There's a couple of ways you can do it. A company called Spike It makes a little dip. Okay, you can dip the tails in chartreuse or whatever color you want. I don't like doing that. I use the little Spike It pins. Basically, it's like a little permanent marker. I have one in here somewhere. It's chartreuse. Now, when I color a worm, let's say I take this June bug worm here and I want to color it, and I'm running it on a Texas rig, so my hook is up here, and yet I'm going to color the tail. I don't color the tail. I prefer to color the area where the hook is. So if I'm going to use a little chartreuse or whatever color I choose to use, if my hook's up here, that's the area I'm going to cover. I don't want the bass hitting the tail. I might not get a good hook set. He may just let it go. I want him up there where the hook is. So I don't color my worms that much, but when I do, I like to get it right around where the hook is. If you're wacky rigging, color it right where that hook is. I think you're going to catch more fish. The thing about water clarity, in some of the things that I've read from various biologists and so forth, a bass can see 5 times more than we can in the water. So if I can see 2 feet, he can see 10 feet. If I can see 1 inch, he can see 5 inches. So when you think about water clarity, I mean, like this lake right here, I'm seeing down to 2 feet. I know the bass can see my bait from around 10 feet away, which is really good. Now, if you're in that muddy situation where you only see 2 to 3 inches, he's only going to see that bait from 10 to 15 inches away from him, which means you got to cover water very carefully in order to find those bass. So just remember how the bass see compared to us. They see 5 times better than we do. I hope this video helps. Plastic worms is the #1 bait of all time. You should get you some different colors, stay with natural and basic colors, and just look at your water clarity, and that's going to tell you what color to use. Thanks for tuning into the video. I hope this helps. I'll talk to you soon.